So let's get started. Hello and welcome to the University of King's College Winter Open House. My name is Ashleigh Baxter, the on-campus Recruitment and Enrollment Officer here at King's, and I will be your host for this afternoon. Just 3 housekeeping notes. This webinar today will be about 1 hour long. There is a chat box and Q&A feature, so feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation. My colleagues Yolana and Kaylee will be available to answer them during. And of course, as always, you can email us at admissions@ukings.ca. And the third note, if you are currently a grade 12 student and you haven't already applied to King's, be sure to stick with us. After the event, we will be emailing you a waiver code so you can apply to King's for free and save the $65 application fee. Plus, if you apply by March 1st, you will be considered for one of our general entrance awards. So I'd like to begin by saying a few notes about where we are located today. King's is in the heart of Halifax, Nova Scotia, and Halifax is also known by its Mi'kmaq name, Chibuktuk, which also means Great Harbor. King's and Halifax are on the unceded and ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and you can see our students raising the Mi'kmaq Ground Council flag and that flies in the center of our quad. We are also online. I know we've all been spending a lot of time looking at screens over the last year, so I appreciate you taking the time to log in and be with us today. You may have some questions about how the university is responding and adapting to COVID-19. There have been no decisions for fall course delivery as of yet. We are optimistic that there will be some sort of in-person or on-campus component, but I'm sure, as you can all understand, there are many factors in this time of uncertainty, and we work very, very closely with public health officials. One thing I can say for certain is if online delivery works best for you and it's what you're looking for, FIP has made a commitment to offer an online option for those that are interested in that. But all of our COVID updates and announcements can be found on our website, so be sure to check in regularly. The agenda for today, I'm going to give an overview of our programs, talk about our scholarship and awards, talk about our relationship with our neighbors at Dalhousie University. You can see the 2 institutions illustrated here. Introduce you to Halifax and our alumni network. And then, of course, you are going to get to hear from a panel of our current students who have offered to be here today to answer all of your questions. So here at King's, there are 4 different types of degrees that we offer. A Bachelor of Science, which includes subjects like chemistry, physics, or biology, which you're probably familiar with from high school, but also things like economics, marine biology, environmental science. We have a Bachelor of Arts, which includes disciplines like philosophy, history, political science, women and gender, sociology, and psychology. A Bachelor of Music, which includes composition, performance, musicology, and popular music, and offers 15 different voice and instrument combinations for students to choose from, and a Bachelor of Journalism, which I'll talk a little bit later in the presentation. Many students choose to start the first year of their 4-year degree with a program called Foundation Year Program, which you will commonly hear to refer to as FIP, FYP. FIP is special and unique to King's and is something that sets us apart from other institutions. So Foundation Year Program takes students on a big time travel road trip from the ancient world, where you're going to look at some of the earliest stories ever recorded and walks them through to the contemporary times. Together, students are going to trace great ideas, texts, and influential people that have shaped our culture over time. Some of these ideas are going to be really beautiful and inspiring and groundbreaking, and some of these ideas are going to be troubling, upsetting, or disturbing. But we're going to have the opportunity to scrutinize and interrogate them, so perhaps ideas about war or gender or colonialism, and think critically about how they have impacted us over time. FIP is going to help you understand the current world that you navigate and help you think about how you want to move forward into the future. As you can see here, FIP is broken down into 6 sections: the ancient world, the Middle Ages, the Renaissance and Reformation, the Age of Reason and Enlightenment, the Era of Revolutions, and the contemporary world. And one way we're going to learn and explore these different periods is by reading primary texts. So rather than read someone else's interpretation, we're going to go straight to the source and explore them ourselves. You might notice from this reading list that FIP is interdisciplinary, meaning that it touches on multiple subjects at once. So we're going to read work by philosophers like Plato. We're going to read some poetry or work by poets like Dante. We're going to explore theater and playwrights from Shakespeare. We're going to get to hear from scientists like Darwin, Sir Isaac Newton, and Galileo. We're going to explore issues of race through Du Bois or gender through Simone de Beauvoir, and read about government and politics and property from authors such as Karl Marx and John Locke. FIP is a really great program if you're not sure what discipline you want to study in your upper year, because it gives you a really broad and expansive, experience. And one note I did want to say, if you are familiar with these names, that's great. But if you aren't, that is okay too. Do not be intimidated. Here at King's, we want to be the first one to introduce you to these ideas and these thinkers. So another thing that's unique about FIP is its structure. In the typical first-year university experience, you would take 5 different classes offered at different times with different professors and peer groups and assignments. However, FIP is more of a consolidated first year. I like to think of it as a mega class that takes up the majority of your timetable. If you are an arts, journalism, or music student, FIP is going to be worth 4 credits, leaving you space in your timetable for 1 elective. And if you are a science student, FIP is going to be worth 3 credits, leaving you space in your timetable for 1 science and 1 math credit. So here's an example of a student agenda or calendar. In the mornings, FIP students take a 2-hour lecture where they hear from a professor who is an expert in that subject or text. And then they break out into small, what we call tutorial groups of about 10 to 15 other students, where they can ask questions, respectfully disagree with one another, and talk about the lectures they heard and the text that they're reading. I think it's notable to mention that tutorials at King's are actually led by professors. So at a lot of other institutions, you might have an upper year student or graduate student leading tutorial, but here at King's, you'll get to work really closely with professors who are going to know you on a first name basis. We have pride ourselves on having a 1 to 15 professor to student ratio, which is not something you typically see until your upper years, but you'll get that here at King's. As you can see in the calendar, there are a lot of other fun things going on, such as trivia night, movie night, coffee dates, yoga, and of course, some studying in the library. So here's a photo of one of our tutorial groups chatting and studying in the Wentworth Garden. Because FIP students have the same schedule, are reading the same texts, have assignments due on the same day, it really fosters a learning and supportive community. And the structure is especially great if you're at all nervous about the transition from high school to university, you're feeling underprepared, or you're not sure how you're going to manage your time. So after first year, there are countless program options for you to explore. You can combine, customize, and build your degree unique to you. We have a really supportive academic advising team that can help you navigate all of this. The programs that you see highlighted in blue, Contemporary Studies, Early Modern Studies, History of Science and Technology, and Journalism, are King's-specific programs that take place on the King's campus. So even if you choose another program that would take place on Dallas campus through our shared faculties, which I'll talk about later, I definitely encourage you to explore some of the electives in our upper year programs. And you could take courses such as science fiction and film, the history, culture, and science of beer making, courses on witchcraft, vampires, and pirates, theories of punishment, and much more. So I just wanted to take a moment to highlight our journalism school. We are the only journalism school in the Atlantic provinces, and we are one of the top journalism schools in Canada. We run a very practical hands-on program with our students attending news conferences, court hearings, events and festivals. They are writing stories, interviewing, and reporting as early as their second year. You can read some of their stories or hear some of their podcasts on the Signal, and I will share the link in the chat. And some of these stories are on local or global news, politics, arts and culture, sports, events, and much more. Our professors and students in the J School tend to have an editor-journalist relationship, so students are often out on assignment, but the journalism professors teach our students about big issues in journalism, such as fairness, being impartial or objective, and on ethics, such as media law, how to best represent diversity in our community, how to use graphic images, and of course, the skills of writing, researching and gathering information, writing a big feature assignment, or using audio and visual equipment. Um, Everyone graduates from our journalism school with real world work experience, and we pride ourselves on, through an internship, and we pride ourselves on having graduates that are ready to enter the workforce and perform at a high level. So if you like to find out what's true, what is new, and what is interesting in the world and share it with others, this could definitely be the program for you. One of our students, Natalia Tola, on our student panel is a current journalism student, and she'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. So this is our scholarship page. 95% of our first year students receive some sort of financial award and support from King's. We have two types of scholarships. One is our general entrance awards. These are pretty easy and straightforward, and they're at the top of the slide here. All high school students who apply by March 1st, which is coming up quickly, will automatically be considered for an entrance award valued between $2,000 and $3,500. With the waiver code you'll receive later today and this scholarship incentive, there's no reason not to apply to King's by March 1st. These awards, I will note, are renewable in your upper years. So if you continue to do well in your studies and you meet the minimum GPA requirements, you can continue to receive this award. We also have some major awards. To apply to these, there are some application forms and a short essay, but the major awards come with some very generous amounts and is definitely worth the added effort. There are some criteria which you can read about on our website. Again, I will share the link in the chat. And some of them are based on student life activities. So you could see here the Deborah Dean Little and Robert Little Academic Scholarship for Varsity Athletics is for our varsity athletes who do foundation year program. We have the King's Theatrical Society Award, which is for students who are really involved in the theater community. And some of them are for different kinds of students. So the Prince Scholarship, for example, is for African Nova Scotians entering FIP, and the Carrie and Ralph Wright Memorial Scholarship is for Black, Canadian, and Indigenous students coming to King's. But scholarships are only one piece of the financial aid puzzle. We do have bursaries. So if you are, those are typically based on financial need. So if you are applying to a student loan to help fund your education, I strongly encourage you to apply to a bursary as well. The biggest mistake students make is just by not applying. So what makes all of this possible is through our partnership and relationship with Dalhousie University. Dal is just a 30-second to 3-minute walk away, depending on which building you're headed to. We share the Faculty of Arts and Social Science, the Faculty of Science, the Fountain School of Performing Arts, which houses our theater and music departments. We often say that through this relationship, the Kings-Dal relationship, it's King students that get the best of both worlds. Here at Kings, you have the small, intimate, like-minded, supportive community, but you don't miss out on all the facilities and resources that come with attending a large institution like Dalhousie. So King students have access to the Health and Wellness Center, which has doctors, nurses, and counselors available to you through your student health plan. The Dal Killam Library, which has accessibility services, writing services, lots of resources and study space. The Dalplex Fitness Facility, which is a $30 million facility. They have a 50-meter Olympic-sized swimming pool, a rock climbing wall, a cardio and weight room, a sauna, intramural sports, pretty much any fitness class you can think of, and much more. We also share the International Student Center, which is not only great if you're an international student, but if you're interested in study abroad or exchange opportunities, and lots of other supports at Dal, like the Black Student Advising Center, the Indigenous Student Center, and the LGBTQ SIA plus collective. If you are interested in Kings, I strongly encourage you to explore Dalhousie as well. We are what we like to call a package deal. And as a Kings student, you will find yourself on the Dal campus at some point throughout your degree. So Kings and Dalhousie are located in the beautiful and vibrant coastal city of Halifax, Nova Scotia. If you want to learn more about what living in Halifax is like, discoverhalifax.ca is a really great resource. They are the local tourism board, but they do a great job at showcasing local events, things to do and see, places to eat or shop, how to get around the city, day trips to take, and much more. With 7 post-secondary institutions, Halifax is the ultimate college town, a city truly centered around students. So you can picture lots of coffee shops for studying, a nightlife with live music and your friends, sports teams, museums, and galleries. And if you're outdoorsy, lots of hiking trails, public parks, beautiful gardens, and of course, the Atlantic Ocean. Students come to Halifax from all over the world, and I'm confident Halifax can have them feeling like a local Haligonian in no time. So after your time at King's and your time in Halifax, you might be wondering, where can a King's degree take you? So here are some of our King alumni. Benjamin Langer is a family doctor. We've got Gwyneth Cross, who works in government with the United Nations Academic Council. Ao Iwara is a professor down at the University of Texas. Laura Armstrong is a reporter and journalist with the Toronto Star who reports on the Toronto Blue Jays. And John Harrison is a VP at Google. So you have lots of interesting alumni doing lots of really cool and interesting things out in the world. And if you'd like to learn more about the types of jobs our graduates are doing, the network that you could be connected to, and read their full profiles, I encourage you to visit ukingscommunity.ca. This is our alumni page. You can find the link in the chat. I just wanted to share 2 features with you. This is our homepage, and I personally just think this is super cool. If you're a high school student and you know you want to work in the tourism sector or not-for-profit, or you want to be an entrepreneur or work in finance, you can see our alumni network that are working in those fields by browsing by career. But if you're a high school student and you're not sure what you want to do or what you want to be, that's okay too. But you're curious about where a Bachelor of Arts, Science, Music, or Journalism could lead you, you can browse by program and see where our alumni who have graduated with similar degrees have ended up. So this brings us to the question and answer period with our student panel. You can certainly ask them personal questions like why they chose to come to King's, what is their favorite foundation yearbook, or what are some of the best places to eat in Halifax. But they're also the best group of people to ask about athletics and intramural sports, what student employment and campus job opportunities are like, societies and student life, what living in residence or eating in the dining hall is like, and which exchange and study abroad opportunities are available. So without further ado, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and put myself on mute, and I'm going to let Altea start us off. Give me one moment. Here we are, and I'm going to let Altea start us off and let the students introduce themselves to you one by one.
Perfect. Thank you, Ashleigh. Hi, my name is Altea Palapple. I go by she, her pronouns. I am a second-year student at King's, and I'm doing a double major in International Development Studies and Social Anthropology. I'm also a part of the Day Student Society as an internal vice president there. And I live in Halifax, and I have always lived in Halifax. So if you need to know anything about being a day student or Halifax life, just ask me. I'm here.
Hey everyone, my name's Corey and I'm a third-year King student and I'm studying in the Law, Justice, and Society program. And also this year I'm working in King's residence as a junior don, which is like a residence assistant position, but it's for undergraduate students. So I could answer probably some good residence questions.
Hello, can you hear me? Oh, okay, great. Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Natalia Tola. I use she, her pronouns. I'm from Ecuador, which is located in South America, and my major is journalism with a minor in contemporary studies. Currently, I am King's International Student Ambassador, and like Corey, I am a junior don in Angel's Roost. It's really nice to see everyone.
Hi, my name is Olivia. I go by she, her pronouns. I am the campus tour guide for King. So if you've attended any of our virtual tours, then you might know me from there. Well, wait, I should say my major first. I am a second year student double majoring in political science and contemporary studies. And I'm originally from Toronto, but I'm living in Halifax now.
Go ahead, Sophia, and then Jake.
Hey everyone, I'm Sophia. Thank you, Ashleigh, and thanks everyone for coming. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a Haligonian born and raised with proud Jamaican roots. I'm a first-year student at King's, so I'm enrolled in FIP, Foundation Year Program in the Arts. And like Corey, I'm planning on going into the Law, Justice, and Society program after my first year, which I'm very excited about. So if anyone has any questions about Foundation Year Program or Halifax in general, I'm here to help.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jacob Wilkie. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm from Halifax, living in Halifax, and was born and raised in Halifax. I am a first-year FIP student, so any of your questions about first-year FIP, I'm your guy. I've done sections 1 through 4 and are halfway through section 5, so I have a good idea what the program looks like and what day-to-day life is like. So I'd be glad to answer any questions about that.
Perfect. So we have one of our first questions. What opportunities exist to get involved within the greater Halifax community as a King student? Is there anyone that wants to go first? I'll say it again. What opportunities exist to get involved within the greater Halifax community as a King student?
I'll say something first. So getting involved with some of the societies is really great. The Day Student Society, we've done a few like volunteer things here and there, especially with the broader like King's like student community. If that's what you're interested in, that's a great way to get involved with like your school community. Just like different things like doing grocery deliveries right now with COVID and Usually we do a lot of events for the public. And like just like asking around is totally cool. There's a lot of volunteering opportunities here in Halifax. So if you're interested, someone will know, like just around.
Beautiful, Altea. Okay, question number 2. In FIP, what does a day of studying look like, and how often are we reading? Who wants to tackle that one? Jake?
Yeah, FIP is generally speaking, day to day, you're going to be reading the prescribed text for the day. It goes chronologically as the program goes. So it's usually when you're starting a section, it's probably the earliest, and then you're going to the latest, the end of your section. Day wise, it's reading. Reading comes before lectures, which usually happen 9:30 normally in the mornings. Now they're posted online, so you can see them 24 hours in advance, and it's super helpful. And once you've seen your lectures, take your notes, done all this stuff, you go to tutorial, you talk to people. In your tutorial, you usually get very close to your people in tutorial because you're living in this almost small little community together and discussing the text. You'll be helped by your tutor, which, as Ashleigh mentioned earlier, is a professor. Very intelligent people and extremely helpful people to be able to guide your discussions. And there's a whole bunch of different styles to how tutors run their tutorials, but generally speaking, you will have a lot of opportunities to be able to voice your ideas about the text you're reading. And it has a huge umbrella of things that FIP talks about in the program. So it's a little bit hard to be able to say concretely, which day or what you'll be studying every single day, because it is an interdisciplinary program. It is you could be reading Darwin, which is mostly sciences. You could be reading, especially later in the year, you're reading a lot of stories, myths, and legends like Gilgamesh or the Odyssey. And yeah, it's a huge, broad and expansive and very diverse as well amount of text that you will read. And the one thing I like about it is that if you don't like one text or you don't like a specific something, there's always another text the next day. There's always something else to do. And if you take that initiative and do the readings when they come up, you'll be able to balance out your schedule pretty well.
Perfect. Thanks, Jake. Sophia, I was just going to say you are also in FIP. So what does a day of studying or what does your reading look like?
Definitely, Jake. That was a great answer. So I'm doing FIP Arts and I'm currently not taking an elective. So FIP is all that I'm focusing on this year. So essentially my weekly schedule, it goes Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I have a tutorial every day. So that's a live class that I have to log into, like Jake mentioned, and we discuss the texts. And so Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you have to have a new text read each day. Tuesday, however, we lovingly call it FIP Tuesday, is a day off. So you are able to catch up on any readings that you might want to get done for later in the week. You can do work on your paper, get ahead on some things. So that's a great day that you're able to take for yourself and complete any work that you need to get done. But a day for me, which I'm at home doing my studies, so I'm a day student, I wake up, I watch my lectures online, then I go to tutorial, we talk about the text that the lecture was on for that day, and then I usually spend most of my afternoon doing readings for the next day or for later on in the week. So it is quite a bit of reading, but I've really enjoyed it thus far. And it's a really easily manageable schedule the way that it's built for you.
Beautiful. Thanks, Sophia. So we've got another question. Is there strong mental health support and accommodation for students at King's? Natalia?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for bringing that question forward. Definitely, mental health is a very important issue to discuss, especially with online classes and everything going around the world. It's just a very scary time, and King's is completely equipped for that. I genuinely believe that there's support everywhere you look. First of all, in your floor, you have a junior don, such as Corey and me. And our job is literally to help you out on any issues you may have in residence, whether that means learning how to do laundry, how to navigate the public transport system, if you're having issues with your roommate. Second of all, we have peer support, which is a very exciting initiative that King's begun. And it basically means that you can receive direct counseling from students. So they're people your age. So you don't feel that sort of alienation that you feel when you sometimes speak with a therapist who seems older and just a little intimidating. But if you actually want specialized therapy, like Ashleigh mentioned before, we have direct access to the Dalhousie Student Health Center, which means that you can actually book appointments with licensed professionals regarding mental health. And they have same day appointments, which means that if it's an emergency, you can speak to a person on that same day. At the same time, we have an app that I believe is called BetterHelp, if I'm correct, and also another one that's called Good to Talk. Both of these apps provide instant direct communication with people who are willing to provide empathy. Likewise, a great benefit of King's is the fact that we're a small school, which means that reaching out to your professors to talk about issues you may be struggling with is something that's very doable, and everyone is on a first name basis, which I personally find really nice.
Beautiful and comprehensive answer, Natalia. I think you hit them all. Okay, so here's another question, perhaps for one of our second year students. How are the first days of face-to-face classes? So I imagine the student asking this is imagining, your first day of classes as if it wasn't online learning. I don't know if there's anyone that wants to volunteer to. Olivia?
Well, actually, I remember sitting in Alumni Hall, which is the lecture hall where all of the FIP lectures take place. And it was the very first lecture of the year, the inaugural lecture, and it was on the Epic of Gilgamesh. And I believe it was Dr. Kyle Fraser, who was lecturing. And he told us probably the most intimidating thing that you can say to a group of 18-year-old first years, which is that you guys are going to suffer this year. And we were like, what does that mean? Why would you tell us that? But he said it so kind of candidly, and it was very kind of earnest of like, you're going to be challenged by FIP, but really it's such a rewarding process. And obviously he didn't mean you're going to be in pain. Like that's not really what suffering meant. It was just sort of that kind of embodies how FIP really encourages you to push yourself academically and personally, and how there was this kind of concept of needing to challenge yourself in order to grow and learn as a person. So, it was a bit of a kind of a intimidating message, but it wasn't kind of the compassion that the tutors have for you and their genuine willingness to help you challenge yourself. And if you do, challenge yourself, obviously in an appropriate way, if you feel that it's becoming too overwhelming, they don't want that at all. And they're willing to work with you and accommodate you. And as Natalia beautifully spoke to, there are tons of various mental health resources available, but it was just kind of a funny story that really stuck with me.
Alte, I think I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, going off of what Olivia said, I also remember that first lecture in Alumni Hall very vividly, for different reasons, also for that reason, but also because don't be afraid if you feel intimidated in that space, because everyone else is watching this lecture and everyone is going through the same thought process. When I first went into the first lecture, not gonna lie, didn't know that I had to read the Epic of Gilgamesh for the first lecture, and anything he was saying, I could not understand. It was a different language to me. But the thing is, you just learn through it, and everyone is going through it. And same with the tight-knit community here at King's. With FIP, it's even like closer with your peers because you're all learning the same thing. So if there's something that you do not understand, you can always talk to your peers, talk in tutorial, ask your tutor, ask the lecturer even. There's definitely different avenues that you can use go to learn more about the material. And I would say that, I'm not gonna lie, it was intimidating the first couple of lectures, but you just go through it, and it gets better, and it's so interesting, and you'll love the material.
Beautiful. So here's the next question. Do you have any tips to organize your time so that the tasks do not all come together at once? Jake?
At least in FIP, I obviously haven't gone through a 5-course or the 5 regular course load, but to FIP, I could speak my experience that it's, you got to find how comfortable, you got to find what works for you. First of all, you got to figure out how large is your attention span, like how long can you work at things, and how effective can you work for that short or long period of time. Some of my friends can sit down like on a Wednesday after classes and tutorials and just write entire essays those days, and then like on the weekend they edit and do all of their proofreading those days. But for some people like me, for instance, I can only work in short bursts. So like from the moment essays come out, I'm writing throughout the week. I'm doing a little bit of work here and there, tweaking things, coming back with a fresh like look at my essay every single day. And also balancing that with reading. So if you're having trouble with your essay or having trouble with that, you can focus on reading one day and taking those. And I highly recommend taking notes on your books. It will make the reading way faster and way more engaging if you actively engage when reading the book. And it will help you also come to the tutorial with your various questions. But yeah, finding that balance and finding what's good for you is the first step there. Figuring out whether something works for you or not. If you take initiative and do those things daily and kind of work through it the way we're comfortable with and the way you can effectively, then you're going to be able to make time for the things that you love to do. And making time for things you love is kind of is really helpful, or really easy, I should say, in FIP because of the scheduled performance thing. How much you're going to need to read for a certain day. How much time you have until the next essay. What you need to read and what you need to focus on every day. Unlike some courses in their syllabus assignments that are kind of, I don't want to say arbitrary, but they have certain due dates that might be different every single week, and your workload might be different every single week. That's different from FIP, where you have structure to it. So it's much easier to be able to schedule those things that you love to do in FIP. And I think that's part of the thing that really makes it great, because it allows you, like Thea said, to be able to join those student societies, to be able to have those things and be able to balance it really well with your workload.
Great tips, Jake. So we had another question. As an out-of-province student, what are the quarantine requirements prior to arriving for the fall? Things might change between now and September, but Corey, I don't know if you wanted to talk to perhaps what move-in day was like this year.
Yeah, definitely. We had
For
kind of
residents, sorry, I meant to clarify that
yeah, for sure. We had kind of a move-in and isolation period. So for the first 2 weeks before foundation year started, a lot of our residents came, and the building I'm in right now, Alex Hall, was pretty much converted into a complete, I guess, an isolation building. So all the residents that were coming into the province could stay in the building, and they were given food from our meal hall. It was brought to their floors where they could pick it up. And yeah, I think since then, I've heard a lot of students have found it's really great to use Airbnb as a isolation option. They'll like find a spot and maybe split an apartment or somewhere they can stay with some friends and just hang out for 2 weeks. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, great job, Corey. So someone is asking, how difficult is it to adapt to the change from high school to university academically? So how difficult is it to adapt from high school to university? Oh, Sophia, I saw your hand up, and then Jake.
Absolutely. I saw Jake laughing. I was also chuckling as well because I think inevitably you can't really dance around the fact that it is going to be a jump up from what you were doing in high school. It depends on what you're going into for sure, but the workload definitely becomes a bit heavier. And it's just important to really adapt to the situation. I think something that's important, that maybe a tip that I could give, was I was pretty hard on myself at the very beginning of the year that I wasn't getting the results that I was hoping for right away. And I think the biggest thing is, try your best at the beginning, but remember that everyone's making that jump from high school to university with you, and that no one's expecting you to be a pro right as you go into things. The whole point is to go in and learn how to build on the skills that you've had before and to get better. So don't be too hard on yourself at first, and give yourself time to acclimate to the situation that you're in, especially if you're taking classes online. That comes with a whole set of challenges as well. So make sure you give yourself time to acclimate and get yourself into a comfortable space, and be easy on yourself, because it is difficult, but it's not daunting. It's just a bit difficult to get used to, and then it gets a lot easier.
Great, Sophia. I will say one thing for the viewers that might have missed it. Sophia had said that she's taking in her first year just FIP. So rather than the 5 classes, she's just focusing on the 4 that FIP is comprised of, and that is becoming more and more popular for students to take 4 classes over 5 years rather than 5 classes a year over 4 years, and gives them so much more time to explore all the great things that come with university. Jake, how did you find the jump from high school to university academically?
I think that Sophia gave a great answer. It's jarring, I would say, for a lot of people coming from this was a weirder time because of course schools basically went to online learning in the second semester. For me, I hadn't been writing an essay for like eight-ish months before we got to this point. It was you're out of practice in many cases, and you're coming from the summer, and the acclimation is very interesting. And I think when it hits most students is when you get that first essay back. Section 1, paper 1 is brutal for everyone, I feel like, and it definitely was for me. And especially as I'm not gonna lie, I was not the best student in my high school years, and it has been a steep learning curve through my later years in high school. And when I got to FIP, those first texts are monumental pieces of the sort of big um, picture that FIP likes to paint. And there are a lot of material in the start. So it is, like Sophia said, a lot of effort to be able to get to those places that you need to be. But what really helped me is for my first essay, of course, your tutor, your person that is with you in your tutorial every single day, are the people going to be marking it, and each of them have a different style of how they like to like edit your essays. But it is feedback from them, and it is personal. It is usually like picking apart bits of your essay. Like, this doesn't work here. This doesn't make sense. Well, this is really good, and they always, at least in my experience, they've always made the efforts to highlight the best parts of your essays and then parts that you need to improve on as well. And always in that first essay, there will be like a paragraph saying, this is what kind of writer you are, and this is where you need to improve. And you do improve. It's definitely something with FIP is that it's hard. I think it's harder to not improve than it is to, you know, to improve itself, because it's just the way that it's constructed makes it so that you're constantly getting feedback about what your ideas are, and yeah, it's jarring, but everyone who I have met and all of my friends, all people I'm close to, have become better writers, better speakers, and in my opinion, and this may be getting a little personal, but also just better communicators and better at better people as a result. And it's amazing and moving to be able to see that evolution, not just in yourself, but also in the people that you're very, very close to, and you will become close to in your first year.
Awesome. Thanks, Jake. I saw an interesting question here that was basically, do you have to do and attend FIP to come to King's? So this is a pretty short answer. I don't know if someone wants to tackle that one. Corey, do you want to take that one? I know you've been asked that a lot as our tour guide last year. Do you have to do FIP to come to King's?
You're right. It's a pretty simple answer, and no, you don't have to do FIP. I know plenty of King students that have come here to do other programs, and yeah, there's a lot of different things to choose from, but FIP isn't necessary to be a King student.
Someone is asking, so this might be for our second years, what would you change about FIP? Are there elements that you really dislike or it took you a long time to warm up to? Natalia?
Well, I think that's something that is definitely really discussed in FIP, and something that I believe there are being efforts made to work on this. But something that I think that students will definitely notice is sort of the lack of diversity that's very present when it comes to our readings. As an international student, I felt that very intensely. And of course, there are different ways to explain it. It can also, it's also related to the fact that a lot of the writers who existed during those times were, in fact, male, white, straight. So it's a little difficult to find ways to work around that. And I'm glad to hear that there are being more efforts to be more inclusive when it comes to what we read. But I believe that that's something that's very present, and it's something that is important to discuss, even if it's an uncomfortable discussion. I believe that it's something that's important to put on the table, even if it does not really have an easy way out. And I find that a lot of professors in FIP and a lot of professors in King's are willing to talk about this openly, which I think is actually great, because often authority will refuse to be held accountable for such things, but people in Kings are very open to such discussions, which I think is great because it is a very complicated topic and it does not have an easy answer, but I still believe it's something important to note and also important to know.
Beautiful. Great answer, Natalia. Another student is asking, can you talk a little bit about living in Halifax? Is the city boring? Do students spend most of their time on campus? So is the city boring and do you spend a lot of your time on campus? Jake and then Altea. I'll just say we've got about 10 minutes left and a few other questions, but I thought that was an important one.
I'll keep it very short. I don't think Halifax is boring whatsoever. I've lived here for my whole life, and I still find things that I find interesting in this place. There is a lot of things in the general community. I've been involved with Neptune and many of the stuff that they do in the community. Lots of improv and theater classes. Classes I should specify. That they do, and they're free, and you can go to them and meet new people of all different kinds. And I've met some of my closest friends there, and they do things specifically for younger people as well, who are interested in that sort of thing. There are also tons and tons of different stuff you can do here. I won't get into everything, but we have basically anything under mostly everything under the sun you can find to do things here. And spending most time on campus, I should mention, is that King's is one of the nicest campuses I've ever been to. So it's and there's also tons and tons of stuff you can do there, which I'm pretty sure Natalia is going to talk about. So I'll leave it to you.
I'm not sure if anyone wanted to add anything, but I can move. Natalia?
Like Jake, I will keep my answer brief. But as someone who comes also from an entirely different city, I find that there's a lot to do in Halifax if you're willing to not only explore around the main street, but also go to the north end, to go around Dartmouth. Halifax definitely has a really interesting culture outside the main street, which is Spring Garden Road. And if you look for opportunities, you will find a lot of things. And there's also just a great historical aspect in the city. Halifax is one of the oldest cities that I believe is in sort of the area. So you will find a lot of museums. At the same time, we have surrounding cities like Lunenburg, which I just think is a place that everybody should visit if they get the chance. So I think it's about exploring. I think it's about just putting yourself out there, which is kind of what university is about at the same time.
Great answer, Natalia. Natalia knows all of the best food places in Halifax. So if you come to King's and you spot her on campus, do not be shy to ask her. Okay, what is like coming from home to residence? How is the social aspect and mentally the independence aspect? Olivia?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll be upfront. When I first, the summer before I moved into residence, I remember how I had this attitude of like, I'm so ready, I'm so like grown up now, like I don't need my parents to tell me anything, right? And so as soon as they dropped me off, I completely changed that kind of veneer, and I was like, wait, like come back, I'm scared. Like I was quite homesick in that first week. And what I didn't realize was that everyone around me was feeling likewise. And I remember that, some people form like social groups very quickly, and some people, need to take more time to make friends. And so I remember making like a connection with somebody during that first week. And kind of like there's someone that I've lost touch with, but I really was grateful because we were able to talk openly about how we were homesick and how we kind of like missed our moms, and it's just kind of about making those connections around you. And I think that you'll find that King's is just such a community in multiple ways. It's a very multifaceted community because there is the overarching King's community, and then there are smaller niches within that, and you will find your people. If you're attracted to King's, there is something about it that other people are kind of also attracted to. So there is that like-minded aspect of it. And if it does take you a little bit of time to like make friends, like I'll be honest, it did take me a little bit of time to meet my friends, but now I have like honestly the best friends. Like I've met the closest friends that I've had in my life at King's and in FIP. So you kind of just need to be patient and know that some people are going through similar things of what you're going through, and it's not always kind of as simple as you're going to meet your best friend on the first day.
Beautiful. Okay, I have another student asking, is there any way to prepare for FIP or how to write an A paper? And another student asking sort of a similar question. How is the academic challenge coming from high school, and should you expect your marks to stay the same? So even through this conversation, you can see that grade 12 students, you're all sort of feeling the same thing, but you don't know that other students have the same concerns and worries. And I hope that the students have done a good job at illustrating you're all in the same boat and you're all going to be paddling along, I guess is my metaphor here at King's. But I don't know if you guys wanted to speak to how to prepare or about how your marks changed. Sophia?
Absolutely. I think preparation wise, you do get the reading list quite far in advance once you're accepted and you're planning on headed to King's. And most of the books are pretty, they're classics. So you're able to get your hands on some of those, and you'll get the books as well once you purchase them through the university or wherever else. So if you wanted to start getting through the reading list early, I feel like that's kind of the only preparation tip that I could give, because with FIP, it's really just about jumping in and getting into the program itself. There's not a lot that you can do really up to that point, except for readings ahead of time. That would be the only advice that I could give. Also, the secret to writing an A paper, I think, is what I heard. If anybody else has that secret, just let me know. I'm still trying to figure it out as well. When it comes to marks from high school to now, I feel like I talked to this a bit earlier as well, but you will notice, I think for most people, notice a fluctuation from high school and when you go into FIP or into university in general. You're being loaded up with concepts that are all new to you, paper formats that a lot of people I've never seen them before entering FIP. So again, there probably will be some fluctuation, especially at the beginning, but you'll notice that as you get more comfortable and as you're taking more feedback from your tutors, from papers and assignments that you get back, you'll see when you put the effort in that those grades will most likely get back to where you want them to be. But don't be hard on yourself at the beginning at all. It's a jump and you got to jump, so do it.
Perfect. So we are in our last sort of few minutes. We've got one last, I guess two that came in before I talk about our next steps. One was a simple question, so I was thinking maybe when everyone could quickly answer. What is your favorite thing about King's? If you had one thing. I don't know if Altea, you want to go first?
Sure, I'll just keep it sweet. I adore the whole community, all the profs, like anyone who works there, the students, upper years, the whole shabam, everyone, the people who work in the Prince Hall, mwah, they're amazing. Everyone is great. Everyone is so friendly. You can ask them any question. It's amazing. Like, you will never find a community like King's. Yes.
Corey, what is your favorite thing about King's?
I would have to say the community is also my favorite thing, and you're absolutely right. The kitchen staff are amazing, and I find kind of the same thing with pretty much every department or like class at King's is just like the way the students are connected to like the staff and like the administration. It's just kind of amazing. And yeah, definitely just love the community here.
Beautiful. Okay, Jake, what is your favorite thing about Kings?
I hate to be a broken record, but also the community. There's a lot of different things that I like about the program, but it's mostly because of my self-interest. But the community is truly like the best part of it. Like, I still am looked back like a month ago. I was doing a project for German for this year, and I was talking with my main tutor at the time. I sent him an email and I asked, do you know of any good German German versions of The Sorrows of Young Werther? And it's something completely unrelated to King's. He sent me like 3 different versions, and he says this one's the best, this one's probably the cheapest, and this one is that. And it was, and to me that was such a amazing thing to be able to get almost 6 hour, or like not almost literally the exact same day feedback for something that is just developing your interests and making sure that you are doing things that you're interested in, and cultivating those parts of you that take well with the program is definitely the thing that the community does really, really well. And it makes you feel a part of something, and allows you to be the best person, or the best version of you is how I describe it, and helps you find that, and you're not fit into a mold here. It's kind of your own place.
Great. Natalia, what is your favorite thing about Kings?
Well, I think that I want to kind of go more deeply into what community means. What I think that characterizes King's community is compassion, empathy to a level that I don't think that I've ever seen before. And I think that's something that students will immediately see when they arrive on campus.
Sophia, your favorite thing about Kings?
I'm sitting here going, let me think of something else. But even to go a little, give another side of the community aspect, I'm a day student, so I take classes at home. I'm not on campus. But I want to speak to the fact that I've really felt a sense of community being at home and not even being on campus yet. I think there's something really special about that. I've made friends because tutorial groups and class groups are so small. You're able to get close to people. You're able to make relationships with your tutors and your professors. And I just think that, the fact that it's not even in person and you can just feel that sense of community, it's something that's really strong and really powerful.
Great. And Olivia, what is your favorite thing about Kings?
You skipped me. I was so offended.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. No, I'm just very excited to echo basically Natalia's point that yes, the community, but basically how accepting Kings is. And I think all of my fellow panelists will agree that Kings is just a celebration of everything that makes somebody different. It's very much, our students are so committed to social justice, and it's a very kind of a beautiful thing to witness how compassionate the community is, and some qualities that, maybe make you feel ostracized in high school are completely embraced here. That is by far my favorite thing about Kings.
Beautifully said, Olivia. I saved that because the best for last.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
So I'm just going to share my screen. We had one last slide I wanted to share with everyone. Okay, so you might be wondering what next steps you can take. If you have any questions that didn't get answered today, please email us at admissions@ukings.ca. You can, of course, apply online. Applications for admissions, residence, and scholarships are still open. You can attend another event. We will be hosting the Team at King's has been really busy hosting lots of events. We've got one upcoming on varsity athletics, one on life in residence, and of course, we offer campus tour webinars every Monday evenings and Thursday afternoons. If you missed any of our webinars, that is okay. They've all been recorded and shared on our campus recruitment and events webpage. And of course, follow us on social. We are on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. This is not only a great way to explore the university or get important updates, but to see what our current students are up to throughout the year. So thank you for attending the King's open house, winter open house, and stay tuned for an email coming soon. Bye now.